our guest speaker, Assemblymember Cecilia Aguiar-Curry with us. She represents California's 4th Assembly District, which includes all of Napa, Yolo, Colusa, and Lake counties, and even some parts of Sonoma County. Cecilia grew up in Yolo County and has long served the community. Before being elected to the state assembly, she served on Whitter's Planning Commission, City Council, and as mayor. Cecilia is committed to ensuring that her constituents' voices and the voices of all rural Californians are heard in Sacramento. She chairs the Assembly Local Government Committee, Assembly Select Committee on Wine, and is vice chair of the California Legislative Women's Caucus. Cecilia also sits on the Agricultural Governmental Organization, Health and Emergency Management and Select Committee on Career Technical Education and Building a 21st Century Workforce. But other than that, what do you do in your spare time?
I know, isn't that amazing? Every time somebody introduces me and starts repeating and telling me what I've done, I went, oh man, I'm tired. No wonder. Yeah, how's everybody? Good. Well, I'll just go ahead and get started. I have a few things to share with you all. And if anybody wants to do any question or answer later. And I also want to offer you that in the future, maybe later this summer and the fall, I'll be more than happy to meet one-on-one with some of you if you want to have coffee. So this is just one of many meetings I'll be having up and down the entire district. But I want to thank you for having me this morning. And I want to thank Bernie and the League of Women Voters for inviting me to come speak with you. You know, I love when you say that my emphasis has been rural communities. And that's what I see as my role has been in the legislature, because I've had to train so many people about what we do in the rural communities, and what might work in the big cities doesn't necessarily work for our smaller communities, particularly our rural ones. So my priorities have always been along that line is access, access, access. I authored broadband internet for all. So I've been very diligent on continuing to work on that work. Healthcare accessibility, telehealth has also been one of my big priority bills that I did. And obviously advocating for women and children. And we carry that torch every single day with the Women's Caucus. So as was mentioned, that I am very proud that I have been selected this past year as the vice chair of the Legislative Women's Caucus. The Women's Caucus is really interesting. It's bipartisan and it's bicameral. And this year we are 50 women strong, making up 42% of the entire legislature. But I'm not done. I want to see those numbers surpass and get to 50. But as you can imagine, it is a tough struggle to get additional women to run. There's continue to be barriers for women to run. But our mission as the Women's Legislative Women's Caucus is to represent and advocate on behalf of diverse interests of women, girls, and families, seek to increase participation and representation in women in state government, promote sound legislative policies and budget priorities that will improve the well-being of women, children, and families. And that's a real hurdle that I've had this year. I'm trying to make sure that we have more childcare in our system. And that's a big hurdle that we'll find out if we get additional funding in the budget, which is coming up. But last year, the Legislative Women's Caucus rose to the occasion. And with the support of the Future of Abortion Council, our colleagues, and Governor Newsom, we moved forward legislation to expand, protect, and strengthen access to reproductive health care, including abortions for all Californians and people seeking such that in our state. And this year's no different. We're continuing going down that path. We are standing strong. We want to make sure that women's reproductive health and abortion rights stop being attacked. And every time we turn around, we feel like we're being attacked from all sides. But I will say we have a lot of women, as Delane Easton would say, we have a lot of women with brass backbones. Some of the bills that we have done in our reproductive package includes And I'm going to share a couple of my women that I think are really important that worked very hard on this. Is Assemblymember Aguiar-Curry. She's done 2 bills related to privacy protections for medical providers and patients, and sets data privacy standards for sexual and reproductive health information collected by digital services, thus protecting medical providers and the users. And then I co-authored a bill which would protect patients and providers in California from criminalization on abortion care by enacting privacy protections for interstate medical record sharing. So we want to make sure if we're sharing anything that we make sure that there's privacy involved. One of my good friends, Wendy Carrillo, she's doing a bill on clarifying that businesses must comply with consumer requests to delete contraceptive, pregnancy care, and perinatal, including abortion service information, and may not share that information under the exception of the California Privacy Rights Act. Dr. Weber, she and I co-authored a bill requires the Department of Healthcare Services to fully reimburse providers for the provision of abortion medication that aligns with clinical guidelines, evidence-based research, and the discretion of the provider. And the last one that I'm co-authored with Senator Skinner enacts various safeguards against enforcement of other states' laws that interfere with a person, provider, or other entity in California that offers reproductive healthcare services and gender-affirming healthcare services. So as you can see, the Women's Caucus has been quite busy. We do a lot with the childcare. We have money that I think a couple of the gentlemen did a bill regarding childcare, which was frustrating to the women because they forgot about home health care and home child care. And a lot of money went to TK. And so we don't have enough childcare. So we're working on that as well. So my current legislation is big, as it has been every single year. This year I did 24 bills, 19 are still active, three the appropriations held, which much to my dismay, but I'm not complaining. I have some really heavy lifts. One of them is what we call the ACA, the Assembly Constitutional Act. So regarding affordable housing and public infrastructure, and it's based upon a voter approval. So this bill that I'm doing has to have 2/3 vote in both the Assembly and in the Senate, and then it can be on the ballot. So I've always been a consistent advocate for housing and the in the legislature, and ensuring that the state continues to work on that crisis. Fixing our roads, parks, creating affordable housing currently is difficult, expensive, and hard to get approval. So this constitutional amendment I'm doing proposes lowering the threshold from 2/3 to 55%. So as you know, when you vote on a school bond, you just need 55% to get that to pass. But there's many communities that get to 55% for these housing bonds, but it fails because they have to have 2/3 vote. So we are going to do this constitutional amendment to lower the threshold to 55% to be able to approve local bonds, special taxes for affordable housing, and public infrastructure. So the public infrastructure is, from roads, streets, sewers, fire departments, libraries, broadband, some school housing. So there's quite a few things that we have included in this bill, this amendment. I'm really excited about it. We're going to introduce it this coming week. And then we're asking for people to sign on and help support this bill. As we know, President Biden has quite a bit of money into infrastructure. And if we have infrastructure money in our communities, we can leverage and get additional money from the Fed. So there's a lot of things working here. It's an exciting bill. It's, an exciting amendment. And I'm hoping that you'll consider taking a look at that. And hopefully, I know you don't always support things, but maybe on your own you might. But anyway, if building affordable housing is something we need throughout California. And then I also have done, I call it the Cancer Prevention Act, because that's exactly what it is. However, it's been very difficult to run this bill. It's AB 659. It's regarding HPV. In the United States, 37,000 cases of cancer and 7,000 deaths are caused by HPV every year. And this bill will increase uptake of cancer preventing HPV vaccine by guaranteeing that the vaccination is completely covered by all public and private health plans. Parents will be notified of the expectation of HPV vaccination in the method already used at a choice of their school district in the statistically prevalent languages of the school population. The vaccination will also be an expectation of students entering UCs, CSUs, and California community colleges. And out of respect for the impacts on school children of not attending school during the pandemic, I have removed the requirements that school districts and higher education that they have to, institutions must confirm or enforce vaccination, meaning those unvaccinated students can still attend school. I'm not preventing that, but we're making sure that they are fully aware that that vaccine is available to them. And if I had it my way, I would prefer to have everybody to have that, since we can save lives. It's supported by numerous healthcare advocates, including CMA, Planned Parenthood, et cetera, but it's a important bill. I don't know if you've had anyone that passes away from cancer, but why not take the vaccination? It has been here for over 20 years. It's proven successful. In Australia, there's 85% of they have reduced cervical cancer by 85% by this HPV vaccination. So that's that one. I'm also doing protecting survivors from weaponized defamation lawsuits. Years ago, we had a gentleman that worked in the Capitol. He harassed a young lady, sexually harassed her, and she went to court against him. He left the assembly, and after he went to court, he's been harassing her. So the bill will protect survivors of sexual assault, harassment, and discrimination from weaponized defamation lawsuits. Specifically, my bill AB 933 will strengthen the legal protection of survivors who may face retaliatory defamation lawsuits from speaking publicly about their personal experiences. And survivors of sexual assault, harassment, and discrimination are our family, our neighbors, our friends, and our colleagues. So we have to empower anyone who would expose those who've done harm to them, because they are courageous. It's a courageous act for them to come forward. And this bill's doing well. It got, I think it was no opposition on this particular bill, and it's on its way over to the Senate. And then being a senior citizen and listening to podcasts, I did a bill, AB 48. It's called the Nursing Facility Resident Informed Consent Protection Act. Some nursing homes in the United States, including California, give psychotherapeutic drugs to residents with dementia to control their behavior, despite rules that the misuse of drugs as chemical restraints. And you can't do that. However, administering these drugs to dementia patients can have dangerous side effects and increase the risk of death. AB 48 will help stem this practice in California by giving residents and their families the right to informed consent. And it builds on existing protections for nursing home residents in the state law and regulations. And it specifies that residents and their representatives must be informed in writing about the content of black box warnings for proposed drugs and whether the drugs proposed use has been approved by the FDA. And it requires nursing homes to provide written notice to residents and their representatives of their right to revoke consent every 6 months. So they got to re-up that, which is very important. And we provide for increased enforcement of informed consent requirements. And this bill also has been overwhelmingly accepted by my colleagues, and it's on its way to the Senate. And this next bill that I'm just going to share with you, and we can open up to questions, but it's AB 316, and it's called the Autonomous Medium and Heavy Truck Duty Vehicles. As you know, we all know technology is changing. And autonomous cars and trucks are those that can be driven without a driver behind a steering wheel. When this came to my attention, I was pretty much upset about it because they want to do testing on California roadways without a human safety operator, in other words, a driver, as they're testing these autonomous trucks. They're going to be approved sooner or later in California, but the testing and deployment we need to be very careful on. And the widespread deployment of these trucks and other large autonomous vehicles could negatively impact public safety and California transportation workforce. So I'm concerned about all the truck drivers. We have 500,000 truck drivers throughout the state of California. I don't want them to lose their job. However, we need to figure out what we can do with that workforce if indeed these autonomous trucks will be taking over the roadways. As you can imagine, we all drive, and to have a truck going down the highway and it's not being watched by a safety operator, when there's a fire truck on the highway and they slow down, trying to get people to stop, we don't know that the autonomous trucks will be able to identify trucks or down power lines or slippery roads. So we are requiring that the vehicles have a human safety operator in them to ensure that the technology is working properly and to respond to any incidents and emergencies when the vehicles operate on the road. So to me, big tech is really upset with this. They're throwing lots and lots of money at some of my colleagues, saying that I don't care about technology, which is the furthest thing from the truth. I believe in technology, but I believe that it needs to be safe. I believe my constituents want the roadways to be safe. I believe that if you're in Napa Valley and you're seeing a big semi coming down the road on 29 or 12 or whatever on these narrow roads, we need to make sure our roads are safe, and to have an autonomous truck going down there really frightens me. So that's what I can tell you. What I can tell you, I love my job. You'll see some changes on some of the things I'll be doing soon. I've been busy. COVID slowed me down from getting out and about, but it slowed all of us. But we do anywhere between 14 to 17 meetings a day. A lot of them on Zoom. Now that the building is open in Sacramento, we have a lot of visitors, and I'd love to have you come by anytime. Of course, you have to go through my scheduler, but we do take face-to-face calls. And every morning I wake up, I can't wait to go to work. It's a hard job. I love representing this district. I love the diversity of this district. I love changing people's lives. And so with that, if you have any questions, have at it.
Thank you so much. We do have some questions.
Okay. Hi.
So several of the questions I had, you've already answered.
Make sure you talk up because it's hard to hear you.
We'd like to thank you for your strong support for your veterans' rights, which is what I'm trying to play with, of course. But we're very much interested in the status of Assembly Bill 2576, which you introduced to strengthen civic engagement for high school students and increase voter registration in underperforming counties across the state. These are priorities for both the local league voters as well as the California league voters. So can you say what's happening with that assembly bill?
Okay, so I don't have it in front of me, but I love this bill. And I know it's on its way to the Senate. It was a bipartisan split on this bill, as you can imagine. I'm pretty sure you said 20, again, I'm sorry, I can't hear you very well, but it's AB 2526. Am I correct? Okay. And the author is that Gail Pellerin?
Did you introduce it?
Yeah, but I can't hear. I'm sorry, I just can't.
I don't have the other names. No.
I'm just trying to see. I'm trying to look up the bill numbers as we talk because it's sometimes easier. But anyway, it's the voting rights bill that we wanted to make sure that people are getting out there and getting the votes and getting registered. And is that the one?
And also the civic engagement for high school students as well.
So we tried to get that bill through last year and we didn't get the funding for it. So I believe it's Gail Pellerin is attacking that one again this year. We have a phenomenal new assembly member. Her name is Gail Pellerin. She was in charge of elections for Santa Cruz County, and she understands elections like nobody's business. So she's introduced a couple of bills, and she's we're moving those kinds of things forward. The problem is, I'll give you my take on it. She'll get it through, I think, this year, but the civic engagement has been very difficult. We're trying to get civic engagement more in the high schools because that's where we're missing out, is on these younger people. Civics is only offered like for maybe a half a semester, and students they need to be more involved way before that. And there's a bill that I can't remember if it's hers or Isaac Bryan's, but is to include civics earlier, like in 8th grade, so that people understand by the time they have the opportunity to register to vote, they can do so. So there is a lot of motion in the ocean, particularly Ms. Pellerin also has a bill that came up because I don't know if you're aware, but Shasta County is no longer using Dominion software to do their counting of votes during the election process. And she is quite upset because hand counting votes will cost more than the software. However, the people up in Shasta are telling people that it's cheaper to do hand ballots, which is not true at all. So she's doing a bill that pretty much says you need to stay with the automated process of counting votes. I don't know if that answers your question, but my problem is I can't hear very well. I don't know if it's just the connection or.
Yeah, just gotta talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk.
Thank you. She says that's good, and that you already answered the other question she had.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, some of us just came back from the League of Women Voters California conference in San Francisco a couple weeks ago, and we had one of the election department people from Shasta County just telling us about this whole situation, which is just crazy. So,
Well, it's so frustrating when they come in my office and they're like beside themselves because they have so much pride on doing it accurately and doing the right thing. And they feel like they've been just, everything pulled from underneath them. And so I feel so bad for the elected, for the recorder and the elections people. They are beside themselves because they pride themselves on making sure they do the right thing. And now they have to go back to hand counting. It's just not fair.
it's not only more expensive, but probably more problematic and.
Yeah.
Mistakes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was really glad that Gail took this one up. Shirley Weber, Secretary of State, is a very good friend of mine, and she just is beside herself. She says, we'll figure it out, we'll figure it out, girlfriend. So she's working on it.
I do have a question.
You have to use the mic. They won't be able to hear you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Nancy Moore. I am really interested in your in the Women's Caucus, and I'd like you to go to a couple more details about how you're working and where you're headed.
With the Women's Caucus, well, first of all, our number one thing that we're doing right now is that we are reviewing. So we have so much fun things we do in this thing, but it's a lot of work. First thing we're doing for Women's Caucus is we're promoting new women to run. And we are going up and down the state of California along with other groups. Let me think, what's the name of the group? Close the Gap and I know Tracy will remember the other name, but we're going up and down the state of California looking for women to run and trying to encourage them and trying to give them confidence to run. So we're looking at school board members, we're looking at people that are on councils, we're looking at people that have been on commissions. And you know, it's been tough this year. There's been a lot of threats when you run. And so getting women to run's been a little bit difficult, but we are starting to go through every assembly district and Senate district and seeing who is termed out. If they're not termed out in 24, if they're termed out in 26, so we can start mentoring new women. And it's pretty amazing that women do want to run, but we have to be really honest of what this job entails. It's a long days, and there's 12 to 14-hour days. The minimum is 4 days a week, is that packed. And then on weekends, you're working and you're going out to events like I'll be doing today and tomorrow, but you're doing events on weekends. Not every woman can do that and be dedicated to do that. And so we try to set the expectations of those that want to run in 24. Maybe you should run in 26 when your kids are more maybe in high school, so you don't feel so torn about going back and forth. I'm fortunate because I live in Winters. I go 35 miles back and forth. I get to go home every night. My children are raised, my grandchildren are on the East Coast, so I don't have that family pressure. But that's something that women really think about. Or do they have a loved one that's ill, or a mother or father that they're caring for? So it's a stressful job. So we're trying to line up women as we speak. We're starting next week is starting our interviews. The Women's Caucus will endorse women. Obviously, we're going to endorse them soon. But it's a ways away for the primary. So we might stay out of some of the races for a little bit until we make sure that they're settled, because I'll just give you an example. We have 3 lovely women and 3 lovely men running for Bill Dodd's seat. And we need to figure that out, is that who's going to end up surfacing. And so we don't want to endorse anyone right now because there's 3 really viable candidates. And so we're going to see how hard they work and how much money they raise and how they work their campaign. So we're working on that. The other fun thing that we do is that we have a foundation, and the foundation is a nonprofit that we do fundraising for, and we give money. Each Women's Caucus member receives $6,000 to give scholarships to students in their district. So I give out 2 scholarships each year. This year there'll be $3,000 a piece. And in the past, we've only, we might have 500 applicants come through. This year we had 3,000 applicants come through. So now we're trying to sort through all of those. So that's something we're working on. An exciting thing that we're doing with the foundation is that we have a Women's Equality Day in August. And our speakers this year, because Women's Caucus is bipartisan, we're really trying to get my Republican friends, women, more involved. And we came up with a pretty good idea, I think. And we're going to have our Women's Equality Breakfast at the end of August. And our speakers are going to be the senators from South Carolina, the 5 women. They call themselves the Sister Senators. How they work across party lines, how they collaborate. And they're flying out here. They're going to be our speakers for our breakfast. There are 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent. So we're really looking forward to that. And the entire caucus is all behind that. So a lot of sponsors are like jumping on board. They want to be a part of that, event. So we always have something going on as trying to promote women. There's many of us that will go do speaking engagements. Yesterday, just for instance, I had a young lady who is running for assembly in a district in the Bay Area. and she called for my advice, and it was really fun to tell her how to win, my suggestions on how to win, how to keep focused. Don't let anybody get under your skin. Making sure you have your family's support, because people are really mean. And I've had numerous death threats. As a matter of fact, one of them is now the death threat is being heard in Indiana. I might have to fly back there, but a young man threatened me via text messaging at 10 and 11 o'clock at night. So I had to have security around my house for a while. I now have cameras at my house. But the young man is 27, 28 years old. He bought software. We were able to have the security people find out what that software was. They found out his email address, and they've been investigating him. He is now, I am pressing charges on him, and they're federal because it went across federal state lines. So those are the things you have to deal with. And that's why it's kind of hard to get women to run. It's because they're frightened. They're frightened to even run for school board, which is ridiculous, but I get it because they're treated terrible. And people are kind of infiltrating with not with the right ethical and morals that I think that we should all be following. So. I can take one more question. I have to leave to go to this other event, but if you have any other questions, you always can send them to Tracy, and Tracy can get to them. We'll follow up with you.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that there's a bill now to introduce ethnic studies into the high school. And I wonder if there's any work to bring that down to grade school, because it does not begin in high school. And also, we've had a couple of wingnuts in Napa who've been posting racist and anti-Semitic signs. And so we probably should include religion in this, because obviously there's a lot of anti-Semitic.
It's terrible. You know, it's so frustrating. We've had lots of discussions. We just had an ugly incident on the assembly floor this past week. And people just feel like they can say what they want to say, but we're talking about people. We're talking about people's feelings. And we're talking about, I'm dumbfounded. I'm totally dumbfounded. Just for instance, because we had an incident on the floor this week, you don't have to agree with everything, but be polite and let the process run. And, I don't know what we're coming to. I just don't know what we're coming to. There's been some terrible posts. One of our colleagues posted a terrible, terrible thing on, was it Facebook? And we caught wind of it, and we asked him to take it down. And he said maybe he would, but luckily he did, because what he did was against the law. He took pictures of a young lady and himself and one of our visitors on the floor, and he photoshopped it. And you can't do that. Number one, you can't Photoshop anything off of the floor. It's against the law. You can't be posting things that are used with any of our state photographers. So he cropped pictures and stuff, and it was our state photographers. And it's just amazing. It's a colleague did that to other colleagues, and it hurt lots of feelings. And so he has jeopardized, unfortunately, people wanting to vote for his bills or any of his people's bills. So I don't know what to tell you, but we're aware, and we just need to try to give this all the support we can to our local officials that are running our school boards, our commissions. And we have a couple of, I don't have any of those bills, but I believe Mia Bonta does. So keep an eye on what the work we're doing. But so my suggestion is that feel free to contact Tracy in my office. If you have any ideas for bills or policy that you see that we're doing that you don't like, let Tracy know. Tracy will give me a call. She will post it. She will send us a note. You can send us emails regarding things that you oppose or you support. But don't be silent. We need you to be out there and making sure that we know what's going on and what's going on in your community. You know, Tracy and Laura really keep me in touch what's going over in the Napa Sonoma area, as well as parts of Lake. My Davis crew, they take care of my Colusa, West Sacramento, Yolo County area. So we try to make sure we've got a pulse on the communities. Sometimes things slip by us, but if you know of anything, please let me know.
Well, we've run out of time and we really appreciate this.
Yeah.
This list of what you're going through. It's really to have you today, and I appreciate the help both from your district coordinator, Tracy Crumpin, and your legislative aide, Melinda Gutierrez. So,
Oh, I'm so darn lucky. And we're going to have new leadership in the assembly on June 30th. I ask that you keep your ears and eyes open. There'll be some changes made that I think that we'll all be very happy with.
great.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tracy, for organizing this.
Thank you.
Wow. That's great. Okay, well,